And we're going to have a pretty full presentation here. I'm going to go over the agenda in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to mention that we've got a number of meeting ground rules, and they're at the edge of the pews there, at least in the first number of rows. Most of them are common sense, but I'm just going to skim over very briefly. I'm going to grab mine, so I'll be right back. Everything looking good from Zoom. Yeah, the idea is just kind of common sense, listen with an open mind, think before speaking, avoid exclusionary language, request nonviolent communication if you feel like somebody's saying something hurtful to you, let everyone participate, show up on time and prepared, stay mentally and physically present, contribute to meeting goals, stay on point and on time, attack the problem, not the person, close decisions and follow up. That's more for like a decision-making meeting. And then record the outcomes and share. So something we remind ourselves of at every meeting. And so please help us with that, whether you're in person here or on Zoom. I should have asked actually a moment ago, si usted solo habla español, por favor pasa al frente. Habla español para... Okay. We do, you may remember last time we had kind of gibberish for translation to Spanish. And so it wasn't a great experience for our Spanish speaking friends and neighbors. So we do have an improvement there. It wasn't actually doing proper translation. Now it is. It still may not be perfect, but we'll try it out this time regardless. But I guess my follow-on question is anyone hard of hearing? In which case you may want to come closer, or do you need closed caption in English? Anyone? Okay, you're hard of hearing, and so would you like closed caption in English? Okay. Yeah, so I should take care of that. Thank you very much. So yeah, and for the past several years, we've actually combined the board and the community meeting into one and had that every month. We're trying something different this year. We're doing these quarterly community meetings where we really focus on topics that we think are of interest to the whole community and where we've heard feedback that they're interested in those things. So that's what's going on here. So you're not going to hear any board business or anything like that. But I will say, if you're interested in going into more detail, volunteering, want to know more about how the Neighborhood Association operates and the things we do, you're welcome to our board meetings. They happen every month down at the cafe in the same building. So we'd love to have you attend those as well. We do include Zoom participants. I mentioned the meeting ground rules, and we'll share that link in there as well. For those here in person, the restrooms are south of the sanctuary. Just follow the signs. If you have limited mobility, there is a stair chair to the basement. It's a little bit awkward to operate, so just give yourself a little bit of time and check with one of our folks here if you need that. Speaking of which, can anybody who is a Roseway Neighborhood Association board member stand up, please? Yay, and there's right there. Thank you all for being here. And those are the folks that are more in the know about the layout of the building and restrooms if you have trouble finding it. So thank you. And if you haven't already, please put your contact information on the sign-up sheet at the table in the front entrance. There's also a way to sign up to volunteer or to donate to the organization. So all of those are great options. Feel free to check in at the end as well. And hopefully we'll end a few minutes early to where we can have some informal chat and follow up in addition to the Q&A that we'll have throughout. I'll say that if you do sign up, you get on a monthly email list. We don't spam you. We just send you an update once a month with the highlights of what's going on. And you can also opt into membership, which just means that you can vote in meetings where we have official business, such as voting for the board or bylaws changes, which actually we'll have that coming up soon. So Yeah, with that, the Roseway Neighborhood Association is an all-volunteer organization. We're not an HOA. We don't take dues. We don't tell you how to paint your house. We're just here to help the community to connect and gather. So it's all the more important that we have meetings like this to where we hear from one another and hear of all the great things going on in the neighborhood and get input. So that's why we're here tonight. Hopefully that's why you are as well. So I'll say that this tonight's meeting is going to be focused on Roseway Outside. It's beautiful weather. It's a great time of the year to be focused on what is outdoors at Roseway and what's greening Roseway. And so we're going to talk about a number of projects that are separate, but all follow that kind of theme of how do we improve Roseway's experience as an outdoor area, depave, create more shade, more canopy. So we'll be going over those topics tonight to one degree or another. We have a number of presentations and I did mention to somebody that one of the things on the list was the Rose City Golf Course project. I'm going to be mentioning that a little bit later on, but the project manager said they wouldn't have any updates from the last time they gave an update at Rose City Park, so they're not here tonight. So I'm going to introduce that topic for people who maybe aren't familiar with it. But if you were hoping that we would go into great detail about the trail project, we're not going to tonight. But we have exciting things to talk about with the Parkway Plaza that's coming up on 72nd and Mason, pollinator patches, Rose City Bluff restoration, Roseway Heights Middle School Garden Project, and the Rose City Park, the school playground site plan. And we'll just mention a few other things in the process. So any questions before we get rolling? All right. Well, thank you all once again for coming, and we'll just go ahead and kick things off here with Catherine Clark, who has been heading up our Parkway Plaza design, and she'll talk about that. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I completely skipped over part of my agenda, or our agenda that I typed up. So thank you, Catherine, for reminding me of the actual agenda. So let's actually start with dumpster day and cleanup. So Dave, do you want to take over? Yeah, just a minute or two. Okay. And you do need to come up here because I think in order for people to hear on Zoom, they need to. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you, Catherine, for making sure we covered this. So Dave Moskowitz, I'm the secretary of the board, but last year I helped organize the dumpster day, building on the backs of many people who are in the room still who have done that before. It'll be on Saturday, August 17th. We'll open the gates at 9 o'clock and we'll go till 3 p.m. And we're looking for volunteers. If you volunteer, you were able to bring a load and not have to pay. We're actually not, there's no required fee. It's a suggested donation so that we can accommodate people of limited means to bring their disposal materials in without being a big burden. But it is a fundraiser for the neighborhood. So we're able to do a lot of things last year with no set fee. We actually raised quite a bit and people were very generous. So we really appreciate that. But it's a hardworking group of volunteers. And I think there's a few of you who I know put in some long shifts last time. So we're definitely looking for volunteers. The best way to get a hold of or let someone know is to send me an email. And I think somehow I'll share that with everybody if I can before we leave online. But we're going to be taking a lot of things, all kinds of waste. There's a few things we aren't going to take. We're not going to be able to take paint. We're not going to be able to take the TVs, but we're going to be able to take a lot of electronics, a lot of metal. We have a great group, father and son team that comes in and takes metals and electronics. So all that kind of stuff, all the little cables and cords, they take that to a couple of places, and it's very helpful. Metro will be there to take like sharps and disposable medicines that are expired and batteries. We're going to be able to take styrofoam. We may do wood collection. not yard debris wood, but like lumber, that kind of thing. We have to check with the Metro Facilities about that for sure, but we're likely to take that. You have a lot of cardboard. We'll be able to take that. We're going to segregate that as well. Anyway, this little flyer, and I want to thank Brittany Kessler on the board for designing this little flyer. Grab it on your way out if you didn't pick one up on the way in. There's a little QR code on there. So a lot of information will be there, and it'll be updated on sort of what we're going to be able to take, what we won't be able to take. That's Saturday, the 17th of August, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Looking for volunteers. Oh, I didn't say, Glen Haven Park. So we'll be in that, the dumpsters will be in that parking area.
Work with the farmer's market going on.
Yeah,
Can't get in. It's just here.
I think, yeah, we'll have to adjust it during that period that we have to have it.
Okay.
That's a great call. Thanks, neighbor.
Yeah, it's really.
We'll troubleshoot that
Great.
before the big day. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize they went all the way to Siskiyou, so they blocked that driveway.
Lost Siskiyou from the line.
Wow.
Yes, you have to go to 8
You
steps.
gotta go to each second and then go down by the fish building.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised because I thought that they needed to get access to the parking lot for the parking.
Okay, well, this is great. We'll find out from the folks there what we can do. We'll try to accommodate that, but thank you so much for bringing it up. That's the beauty of neighborhood conversation, and I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to volunteer and you want to just come up to me afterwards, I'll give you my card, or I'll figure out some way to get it onto the screen with Ash.
I just wanted to confirm you're taking a styrofoam.
Yeah, we're going to be able to take styrofoam. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Chris.
And thank you, Dave, for taking this on for a few years now. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to move right along to an update on our signage efforts. And so Haley Wallace is heading up that committee. So it's awesome. She's joined us in that effort, not on the board, but passionate about that. So come on up, Haley.
Hey everybody, as Chris said, I'm Haley Wallace. I'm not a board member, just a neighbor. And the neighborhood is considering how we might make Roseway have a little bit more of an established identity. And one of the ways that we're thinking about doing that is through signage. So we've established the signage committee. We're considering different avenues such as banner signs, maybe a larger monument type sign. So it's kind of it's kind of an ongoing effort. We're figuring out how we might go about these things and what might be the most appropriate effort and avenue to do so. So if you're interested in joining or getting involved in that, we meet once a month, and you can find contact information on the website. The Roseway website.
You can certainly, maybe contact or look at the contact information at the bottom of the website, and we can get them in touch with you.
Okay, contact information at the bottom of the website, and you can get involved. So, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Haley, and thank you for also repeating what's said out there, because I think the people on Zoom need to repeat it here, and probably people in the audience as well. So thank you. And Catherine, can you come on up to talk about a brief summary of concert in the park that was this last Thursday, and then the Treasury report? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I might do like another brief introduction before you start with the Roseway Outside.
But I can't see the, but that's okay. All right, so we had our concert in the park with the Summer Free for All program last Thursday at Glen Haven Park, and it was beautiful weather. We had about almost 600 people attending the concert. We had an Afrobeat band, Wombo. Gregory Heights Library tabled and gave away free books. The Portland Parks and Recreation had a couple of staff. They had a Rose City trail map and they were soliciting opinions from people that came to the concert. They were talking about the yard tree giveaway program. And Chick Mama and Kona Ice were there. So, and the Roseway Neighborhood Association tabled and did face painting. So, I thought it was a great event. And Central Northeast Neighbors and the Office of Community and Civic Life paid for our portion of the concert through a small grant. And okay, that's the concert. And yes.
Where are these concerts held and when?
All over the city. If you look up Portland Parks and Recreation Summer Free for All program, they have a calendar of events, of movies and concerts. It's all over the city. So
we hosted ours at the Glen Haven Park last Thursday.
yeah, you have to apply to host it. It's one of the best programs ever. They also do a free lunch and play program for kids out of school in the summer at a lot of parks. Kids come and get lunch and play all kinds of games. All free. Well, it's free for, it wasn't free for us. We had to pay a portion. It was worth it. So, but we did get a grant for that. Okay, that's the concert. Now we have a treasury report. So I'm the treasurer for the Roseway Neighborhood Association. Our current bank balance is $14,185.70. $8,000 of that is our reserve fund that we keep for emergencies. We only had $100 coming in last month, and that was communication funds, $100. It was the remainder of a grant from the city. And outgoing funds were $555.08. So money going out was in our communication area, money going out was $60, and that's to pay for our Squarespace monthly charge to host our website and for some FedEx printing of flyers. From our general funds, 200 and I can't read this. We spent money on office supplies and a sponsorship to Street Roots of $100, and we paid $225 to rent this event space here. And then spending from part of the CNN small grant went to buy plants, seeds, and potting soil. So that's our treasury report.
If I can chime in with a segue before we get started on the big topics. So yeah, we're about to get to the main event here, the main topic of Roseway Outside. The only other thing I wanted to mention, for each of these presentations, we'll have a Q&A period. So people will need to come up and use this other mic here so that people on Zoom and in the back can hear. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Haley Hawes has been thinking a lot about like the greening of Roseway and Portland in general. So she may be chiming in or saying a bit as we go through these. And you're also welcome to, Haley, do you want to stand up? But you're also welcome to check in with her about her vision for, I'm sorry. For her vision for Roseway and the greening of Roseway. So I wanted to mention that. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Catherine, who's also been leading the charge on the Parkway Plaza design.
So you are showing the slide. We're gonna get it all good. I can't see them. But so we've been collaborating with PBOT on the 72nd and Mason Greenway project on our proposed street plaza at the intersection of Northeast Mason and Northeast 72nd. And we started working with them in October, our placemaking committee. And we based our initial designs for this plaza on the results of a survey that PSU urban architecture students did in 2022. And the most desired components of the plaza people asked for were shade and seating and trees. And we cannot plant any more trees near that intersection because of urban forestry planting standards for street trees. So we're going to figure out another way to provide shade. Peabody is going to contribute $2,000 for our street plaza. That's for supplies for painting and anything else we might want to do. They are going to give us 4 picnic tables with benches and 4 planters. We'll need to sand and stain those picnic tables and benches at some point. We'll have a party at my house and do that. But there are a lot of other things we want to have. We want to build some shade structures with shade sails and something with concrete to hold them in place. We're going to do a great street mural, and Megan Blossom from Blossom is going to talk about that in a minute. We'll show you a design. But we'd like to have an accessibility ramp, some signs, you know, telling people quiet time in the plaza, because this is a unique street plaza situated within the middle of the Roseway Parkway and in a totally residential neighborhood. So we need funding. We need more funding from the neighborhood for all of these great things in the plaza. And we did put a link, Give Lively program to donate if you'd like to contribute to it. We can't earmark funds, but to something great for the neighborhood. So if you feel like it, we've got it set up for you.
Yeah, and that sign is in the front entrance. It's in red and there's a QR code. You can scan it and do it at your leisure, or you can text as well. So appreciate you want to invest in me.
Okay, so I got an update from Mimi Phillips, the project lead, just within the last few days. So they have finalized their design for the plaza and done their budget analysis. They're working with contractors to schedule construction of all of the greenway and the plaza. They will update us as soon as they have more information, like they finalize a contract with a contractor and know when they'll start the construction. All right, so now can you show the picture of the plaza? So this is she sent this diagram along with that update. This is the finalized plan. The green and orange structures are, they're going to put concrete post barriers in, and the 2 in the middle, she said there's a place to put a planter on the top, but this is the plan. This will be posted on our website or a link to it so you can look at it. I'm sure you can find the whole plan on PBOT's website. So, I mean, it's got a lot of crosswalks for bikes and pedestrians, and we're probably going to have to change our design plan a little bit because of the placement of the posts and where the bike lanes are, but it's still a pretty great plan. So, can you show this next? Now there should be a plaza picture from Megan. You want to go ahead and show the one with the mural? Megan, you want to come talk about the plaza design here?
Yeah, did we miss anything important with the other slides that I can breeze over?
It's showing placement of the picnic tables and shade structures. We hope to have a trash can. They are going to install permanent bike racks in the plaza. We've got a stage drawn in here, but that'll take a lot of money that we don't have. So it could be a dream for now. The street mural. So Megan is designing our street mural. Megan's an artist and is doing way better than we can. So we're going to have a fantastic street mural, fancier than I visited all the street plazas in Portland, and ours is going to be the best. All right. All right. So you'll click it.
All right. Hi, everybody. Can I just talk to
It's actually because for a Zoom.
I think, but I think either might go over. Yeah.
Right, right.
Just so that they
You know, I
can
like
see
to
our
like
face.
wave my hand
Oh,
over
yeah.
the screen. That's
You can ban
Point.
right over here.
what makes it.
I can point for you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Megan Blossom, and I recently joined the placemaking committee because I was actually really interested in this mural design. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about the basics of it. So I met with Sarah and Haley. We had a little small committee meeting and we came up with some general guidelines for what we wanted we had a lot of input from other people, and this is sort of what we crystallized it to. So we wanted to develop an idea that utilized the negative space. So that's what a lot of people talked about, not just painting a big patch on the pavement. That's a lot harder to maintain, and it shows wear. So really having it be a little bit more lines than big solid patches of color. So it needed to be really simple, the forms, so that people of all abilities can help paint, from little ones on up, because we do want this to be a community project where everyone comes out and helps to create it together, to paint it together. A design that encourages movement and fun, something that kids can play with rather than just on. Native plant, nature and pollinator inspired motifs were really important because it is part of this greenway that is such a central piece to the neighborhood. There's a stage, and the idea with the stage is that there can be performances, there could be music on that, but also thinking that it's a place where the kids are going to play as well. So it's a low stage, but then it has a high back, kind of like a bench on the back of it is the way we envision it, sort of to enclose the street side of it and keep the kids towards the middle.
Yeah,
There-
this is the street, here's the bench on the north side of Mason Street up here, so we're looking north here.
So painting the mural, and then we also had thoughts that we could paint or do some other kind of public art project with the bollards, which are basically traffic control devices that just keep the space safe, that are along the two sides, painting them or doing some kind of mosaic project that's still really up in the air. And then there is a bike lane through the middle. It doesn't have to be like painted like a bike lane, but we thought it would be a good idea if there was some kind of graphic showing that this is the place where bikes will be moving through.
And they've changed that, so it's now two separate bike lanes, but it can be, so it's here, we've got moving water here. So that's something that will have to change.
So this is a extremely preliminary design, but we just wanted to show it to you tonight to give you an idea of what we're envisioning that will be painted there. And so the idea is that there is this ribbon of color that wraps around the space that has integrated with it. There are native plant species. There are Oregon white oak. There are big leaf maple leaves up here, and so there's acorns, and then the seed pods, the maple seed pods, and then there are a couple of wildflowers. These yellow ones at the bottom are what? Catherine knows what they are. The yellow ones, deltoid balsam root. So
Yeah.
those are a native wildflower, and then the other wildflowers are
Amina?
yes, Clarkia. So I am not the gardener and plant person. Thankfully, we have Catherine to guide us. And then there's also the swallowtail butterfly, and then some bumblebees. So those are pollinators. So like I said, this is gonna be a really fun community project to actually install. Hopefully, everybody will come out and take part in doing that. We're gonna make it really easy. We'll grid out and draw the main part of the design, and then probably we'll make stencils for some of the repeated elements. So it will really be a simple thing to do, but it'll be really fun, and how neat for us all to be able to go to the space and know that we had a hand in creating it. So thank you. Thank you.
And so, yeah, with each of these, we did want to have time for questions from folks who are interested, want to participate, have input on the design. So Catherine and Megan will stay up here. What questions do you have about the plaza, the design, what features we're going to have? Go ahead. And yeah, so the question was, what is the surface? Is it going to be a pervious surface? We are, well, do you all want to answer that, or do you want me to? Oh,
You mean besides the street, besides the concrete or asphalt?
Oh, it's existing?
Yeah, so we're instead of,
Catherine, can you come up to the mic?
yeah.
But you need to be up here, so first.
Just for Zoom purposes, so.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
All right, thanks. So most of the street paintings I've seen in street plazas, or they paint the whole surface of the street. And we didn't see why we needed to use all that paint, and you have to repaint them every 2 or 3 years. And there was a ribbon like mural painted on a building next to Trader Joe's on 40 whatever. And it just looked so beautiful. And so that's what we're gonna do. So it's still gonna be mostly concrete, but we're making this fantastic mural that does travel around and includes native plants and insects, and we're following a nature-based theme here. And that's also different from what I've seen in any of the other street plazas. So I think we're fortunate to have someone volunteer to help us out with this. And she doesn't even live in Roseway. So
But has a business in Roseway.
yes, has business on Sandy Boulevard. They put up a Earth Day billboard that might still be out there. So I mean,
But I think part of your question was, would it be impervious or pervious? We are working with the existing grade and asphalt because it's a Peabody project. The bike lane has to go through, so we can't just like tear up the pavement, unfortunately, and put in something pervious. So yeah, it does have to be the surface that exists there. That's part of the Peabody constraint.
but there aren't any potholes in that intersection.
Other questions?
What about the maintenance issue? Will that be responsibility of the community members, or is PBOC going to be maintaining anything?
Peabody will not be maintaining anything as far as I know. So that's another reason to not paint the whole intersection, because you have to repaint everything. But yeah, not as far as I know.
Yeah, so it is something that the neighborhood association is taking on seriously. It'll be part of our ongoing budget and continual maintenance, because yeah, it's important that we don't just like do the big capital project, build it out, and then have it just like abandoned. So it'll be a big part of the neighborhood association's future work, with volunteer effort and donations helping to make that happen over time. So, and Dan, just a second, Erica had a question first.
The stage, and that not being in budget right now, like, is there a price attached to that?
Ken Garrett did figure out construction costs for a stage with all components, wood, the hardware, everything. Ken, can you answer that?
We might not be able to get Ken's audio on the
It's
Zoom.
over $1,000 just for materials. Yes, you have to get a certain kind of wood, plywood that'll stand up to weather, and heavy duty hardware. So yeah, he priced it all out. So yeah, over $1,000, I'd say $1,500.
So that may be an example where we fundraise or pull from our funds and do that as a follow-up, but it may not just be what we have from day one of the build out.
I want to say one other thing. We are surrounded by homes and people living there, and we're very mindful of noise and other issues in the plaza, and we are trying to be very proactive in reaching out to the neighbors. We went and knocked on doors of all the homes around and talked with neighbors, or wrote a letter, left the letter. And we're going to try to head off problems before they happen, like with camping and vandalism and other things like that. But it's Portland, so
I think we have time.
We're really trying to be proactive in this.
I think we have time for one more question. We got other topics. So Dan.
Just a quick one. Are those 3 dots in a triangle? Are those the shade sails we were talking about by the picnic tables?
Yeah, so a group of 2 tables and then a large shade sail covering the 2 tables. And so we have one structure we've looked at is a half wine barrel with a lot of concrete. You can put potting soil on the top of the concrete and grow some annual plants, a post attached and attached at 3 points. So I think that would work.
And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions for Catherine or Megan, hopefully we'll have time at the end you can kind of catch them off to the side. But yeah, round of applause for Catherine, Megan, and the committee for great work. Thank you all. And Catherine's actually going to stay up here to talk about pollinator patches in the same area.
Last time here, so can I see the slide soon? So also from the CNN small grant, we had money to produce some pollinator patches on the parkway. So we have 4 areas. They are near the plaza space. They're 25 feet from the intersection because that's kind of required by urban forestry and PBOT. So all the big trucks can get in, access the parkway. But they're about 8 feet wide and 25 feet long, these 4 patches. And so a group of us turned the sod on these patches and then covered them with black plastic to solarize to kill as many weed seeds as possible. And then right now, I've been growing about 15 native plants from seed. They're native in Oregon. Most of them are locally native and on the Portland plant list, but a few of them are a little farther away, but still Oregon natives. But I chose them because they're very drought resistant and beautiful, like the deltoid balsam root doesn't grow right here, but it grows a little east. And I have a really nice selection, and I've just started distributing these plants that are, about that size, a lot of them now, to some other people, volunteers that are going to raise them up a little more. And then we'll plant them in October, November, sometime when it's raining, and, a good time to plant things because there's no water or irrigation on the parkway. We do have some nice neighbors right at that corner who've offered to help with watering. And I have buckets, we'll figure it out. But I chose these plants specifically because of their sturdiness and drought tolerance and resistance. So we want to attract pollinators and create habitat on the parkway. There's a picture of my backyard. That's some of the plants that I've been growing. We will get things planted. You can show the next slide. And eventually, so we're starting with these 4 patches. We'd like to increase the number. This is kind of our learning curve here with these first 4. See how it goes, get better at germinating these native plant seeds. Some of them are tricky. They have very specific stratification requirements of, I want to be cold and then I want to be warm for a certain amount of time and then I might germinate. So, and some of them are easy. Yarrow, you can just throw yarrow out, it'll sprout for you. So, but we, like to increase the number, but we have to have people to take care of these things. And eventually, we'd like to work with Rose City Park neighborhood. We talked about this a little bit with Suzanne Briggs. She'll talk to you in a minute. Create a larger pollinator corridor to connect the Rose City Golf Course and the Rose City Bluff Restoration Project and the rest of the neighborhood and move on through Cully. I mean, just keep it going. We need money. We need a lot of money for this. So we're gonna look at grant possibilities, but we'd like to make it available for everyone. You know, if you live in an apartment, you just have deep shade, we'll get you a pot, we'll get you soil, we'll find something that'll grow there. So that everyone can participate, not just people with homes or land or what, everyone. We'd like to get them involved. So, the PSAP is a possibility. I'll look around for other grant possibilities and see, you know, what we can work out. But the more people that are interested in this, the better. And Rose City Park has been doing this growing plants and planting for quite a while. So they have worked out, I think, a lot of the problems. But you know, we could partner up with some other neighborhoods. It doesn't have to be limited to Roseway, and not just to people that can pay for water too. Maybe that's a big expense for people. So that's.
Thank you, Catherine. And you can stay up here for questions. Does anybody have any questions about the pollinator patches and how it contributes to an ongoing pollinator corridor? All right, well, that's easy. So yeah, thank you, Catherine and Megan. And yeah, we got some great things going on in the Parkway to make it more of a gathering place for everybody and all beings. So with that, we're going to move on to the Rose City Bluff Restoration. So south end of Roseway and Rose City Park, there's the bluff overlooking the golf course south of Sacramento. And so Suzanne is going to come up and talk about the bluff restoration project in general, what the state of things are and what their upcoming needs are.
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to be here to share the history of this Rose City Bluff, as well as the plans in the future and what all has happened when you just sit and clip blackberries. It's amazing. So the history of this land, and I think it's important to go back to the history of the land of where we are making a place. And so I just want to go briefly to share how we got this bluff in the first place. And I know many of you have heard this story before. I'm just going to do a short introduction. So this ridge, the Alameda Ridge, was created 15,000 years ago with the Missoula flood. There was a dam that was holding back a Missoula Lake in Montana, and it broke and it came down and created the scablands of Washington through the gorge. And the way this particular ridge was created was that water split around the Rocky Butte volcano. And so all of the rocks that you see on the trail and probably in your backyard are all round because they all were tumbling all the way through these states to the Pacific Oceans. So that's our sense of place, of how this bluff was created, and the history of the geology of this place. So on the next slide, we're going to fast forward to the early 1900s. And the Rose City Golf Course was actually farms at the turn of the century, 1900. And then in 1905 was the Lewis and Clark Exposition. And from that exposure of Portland, this land became the Portland Country Club and Livestock Auction place. And it created a mile racetrack in the front 9. And from that racetrack, they then had the architect from the exposition, Lewis Clark Exposition, to actually build this grandstand. This grandstand held 8,000 people, which is kind of hard to believe because the boundary of Portland at that time was 57th Street. But I'm sharing this story because there was it was kind of the introduction of the race horses, then it went to the harness racing, then it went to automobiles, and then Harley Davis, and it just kept growing with the change of the times. When that building was created, when Grandstand was created, in the middle of it was the trolley drop-off, and that is what we call the overlook area. And it's kind of this outcropping that you'll see at 65th Street. And so the trolley dropped people off, and then that area has now become a destination point for the Rose City Club. We have benches there, people hang out, go stargazing there. We now have on Sunday mornings, Tommy Jarvis and his family just started, they saw all these people passing each other on Sunday morning, walking dogs and not stopping to talk and getting to know people. And so he has set up this Bird's Eye Cafe, free coffee, and we have people now gathering at that spot. So it's representative of what has happened through the years that we started clipping blackberries. We have had this community engagement, and it has just kind of built upon itself and taken on a life of its own. So on the next slide, this is a famous picture of when in 1910, the third ever air show was in Portland. And this is a Glenn Curtiss plane flying down and racing a 1909 Buick. You can see in the background the part of the grandstand. So the history, one of the things that we have discovered as we uncovered native plants in this location is we actually found the foundation footings of this grandstand that was there in 1908. So that is a quick history of it. So we're going to fast forward to 2017, and this is what the trail looked like in 2017. John Nichols, who was part of urban forestry, passionate about this trail, along with David Gates, started just kind of raising bells saying, we need to reclaim this land, which is on the north side of the golf course. And so you can see this is the beautiful Oregon white oak tree at the 62nd Street stairs, and it was completely covered. When we started talking to John, he said, maybe we can meet like once a quarter. And by the end of the conversation, we said, no, we'll be here Sunday morning, 9:30, and we'll just start flipping away. So through this presentation, I'm going to tell you how we got to the point where we have turned this whole project into the Rose City Park restoration. So on the next page, this is what the Oregon white oak looks like today. And it was interesting as we started working, there was about 4 or 5 of us at the time. We each kind of started taking ownership of a portion of the trail. And Reed, who's here tonight, was focusing on that part and just kept working it and dreaming about what it could be. This is also the picture that was the opening picture for the Rose City Park Recreation Trail presentation on Zoom. So we all sat there and remembered when we were all just sitting in one place trying to find that tree. And it actually brought tears to my eyes to actually see that was presented as the opening presentation of that, the new trail that's going to be developed. So on the next screen, there was a lot of people as we sat there. Pretty soon people started walking the trail and wondering who we were. And we said, oh, we're just a bunch of neighbors, and they kept saying, well, you should get goats. Why aren't you even thinking about getting goats, you know? And all of us totally agreed that the native plants that we were finding under these blackberries were not going to be eaten by the goats. And so we took the long view of actually clipping these blackberries and uncovering an amazing amount of native plants that had lived under this thicket of blackberries for years. On the next slide, we had the very good fortune of having Greg Shepherd living in our neighborhood. Greg owns Zera Plants, and he is a walking encyclopedia of native plants. And he gave us so much knowledge about, you know, what all was there, identifying what was native as well as what was invasive. So eventually he started doing native plant walks. And we started gathering people. We started building this email list, and people were starting to really see the possibility of what this special place could be. So Greg was very instrumental in being able to educate us about what to do with this half-mile trail that we were working on. So in 2011, we started clipping. Greg was also very instrumental in telling us what to plant where. You know, whether it was a shade area or sun area, whether it was dry versus a wetter area like the meadow. And you can see in this picture, and I'm going to tell you at the end of the presentation how we got to this point, but we designated 4 different areas for restoration. And we kept coming back. Those 4 areas were our priority. And we kept coming back to those 4 areas, making sure that we didn't go backwards and having the blackberries take over. So the 4 areas was the Oregon oak tree, which I just showed you. Then this is Rose Hill, around 64th Street. And then we have the meadow. And I will be showing you the bench bluff as one of the last restoration areas that we did. So through this conversations, we started having a native planting day at the end of the year. But we started with a spring native plant, and we learned so much about when we should be planting those native plants and making sure that they survive. So the spring was not a success story. So now we only do it in November. And so we have a November native plant day. This is our first one that we had in 2021. So you can see we are just kind of slowly making our way down this half-mile trail. On the next slide, we got a grant that previous year. We got a grant for $500,000 through East Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation. And excuse me, $500. Thank you. That was way too many zeros there. Obviously, that was not enough to cover 500 or a half a mile. So, but it got us started, and we learned from that. So Margaret, who was with us at that time, a good friend of Greg, said, well, why don't we just start handing out native plant seeds in the spring, have the neighbors grow them, and then bring them back in November, and we'll plant the bluff. And this whole project turned into another community building event. And we have basically what we did is we got native seeds, 4-inch pots, a little bag of fertilizer, and instructions. And then we've got an email list going amongst the growers that signed up to do this. And they were, you know, passionate about the native plants and wanted to help. So we would have these conversations of, what was thriving, what wasn't thriving, which one had too much sun, which one the dog ate, you know, it was all these conversations and building good friendships amongst the community members along the way. So this year, we have 31, it continued to build. We have 31 neighbors that are growing 21 different native seed varieties. But even over and beyond that, we have neighbors that are donating native plants from their yards and bringing them to the bluff. Reed is one of them. I'm sure we'll hit probably 600 to 700 plants coming back to the bluff in November. So we wait until the rains. Thank you. It's been quite a journey. So people often ask, you know, how do you get to the point where you can actually start planting native plants? So this is our methodology that we have worked out over the years. First of all, we sat there and clipped for 2 years, just trying to keep the blackberries from growing any further, any farther. So for 2 years, we would, the picture on the left there is basically just background of how we clipped it for 2 years, and then we loved the winters. We were out there in all our gear, digging up those mother roots in order to be able to just turn it from being blackberries into an opportunity to plant native plants. Then we ordered up Chip Drop. Chip Drop is our friend. We've had probably 24, I think we've counted up 24 Chip Drops over the years that we have put on this bluff. And Joe came up with the brilliant idea of using gravity instead of pitching it from the trail up. We have a 75-foot tarp where we have a ball of leveling a huge chip drop in 2 hours by sliding all those chips down and getting them into place. And our goal is 6 inches. So if we get 6 inches of chip on there.
Could you speak in the
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for, our goal is to have 6 inches of chips. And then we let it set, and then we come in and we have the opportunity to plant, which is what has happened. This is at the bench bluff. That's our first planting. Sometimes the rabbits, we have to be mindful of what they like to eat. Camas is one of their favorites. And so we use chicken wire at times to just give the plants a good start. So on the next, you'll see the bench bluff on the next slide.
It's on the bench bluff.
Yeah, keep going. Okay. So here we're putting down chip drops, and we have our neighborhood red tail hawk looking over the top of us, hoping that we're going to turn something up for them to, some little critter that they can eat. The birds on the bluff are amazing, and we have Trask Colby, who grew up on that bluff and has been a birder for years and has tracked it on the Merlin app basically. And there's about 6 birders, 6 to 8 birders that you can go out and actually see all of the birds in each of the seasons on what they have tracked. So they actually log in and report what they had seen for the day. So we now have bird walks, mainly in the spring and the fall during the migration, to show, to teach people and make them aware of all the different variety of birds on the bluff. The picture on the right is our planting day for the bluff. And it was just a hoot. We had a great turnout. We had lots of plants to work with. And it's a very visible site. It's where the bench is on 65th Street. And it's a great place for, you see a lot of people sitting on that bench. Next slide. So here's some of our bird friends that are on the bluff. And this is the bench bluff this year. So you can see how much of it has filled in, and It's just beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. Lupin is there. We have lots of different types of grasses. June grass is one, blue ryegrass. So lots of different varieties on that bluff that are now reseeding themselves and coming up every year. So that's I just want to thank all of the, neighbors and, community partners that we've been able to work with. And this is our stack of empty pots after a planting days. Any questions?
I have a question on Zoom. We have someone on here who asked who decides what to plant.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, who decides what to plant? And so we have been following the Portland plan, native plant plan as well. And we are now also working Portland. We are now on the map of Portland parks. They weren't really excited about this part, this bluff and people doing it because the longest fairway is parallel to that bluff. And so they now have appreciated what we are doing. And so we're working with them. We also relied heavily on Greg at Zara Plants, who is incredibly knowledgeable about what plants to plant where.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And do we have other questions from the audience?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you say something early on about there being coffee meetings at the corner of 65th and Sacramento?
So coffee, yeah, so it's just a coffee gathering. And it's just a destination point where people are coming and having conversations that walk their dogs.
Oh, yeah,
or
feels
working
good
on the
too.
bluff, or it's just a community connection to be able to have all of us own this bluff and participate in the bluff in whatever way they can.
Yeah, it's just a family that volunteered to do this.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they'll keep doing it, starting at 9 a.m. between 65th and 66th on Sacramento.
Sundays?
On Sundays,
Sundays.
yeah. You can't miss it. The kids are there. It's where that outlook is basically the overlook is where that's at. So.
Yeah, it's an awesome addition. Yeah, Reed?
Yeah, you got tell them when we meet again on Sunday.
Oh, that's true. So we meet on Sunday at 9:30 at the 62nd stairway. We meet for maybe 5 minutes. We are now doing sign-ins so that we are continuing to build our relationship with parks. And they're very interested in building upon what we've done. So we usually go from 9:30 to 11:30. I have to set my alarm. I must tell you, I don't have enough sense to go home, so.
And we have another question, Johnny.
Quite a few.
How many golf balls have you found?
Yeah, quite a few, but, and they've been there for quite some time. It's amazing how deep they are, on it. So we always are able, his Latif's son comes down and it's a gold mine. He's always counting how many he takes home, but there's definitely a hook on those drives. But everybody's been safe. It has not been it hasn't been a serious issue in regards to walking on that path.
Yeah, so thank you, Suzanne, and all the Bluff volunteers for all your work. And yeah, do come on down. And if you want to find out more, I guess the best way is the Instagram account.
Just email rosecitybluff@gmail.com.
There you go. So we got a double header, Suzanne. So thank you, Suzanne. And we have another doubleheader where Suzanne's also going to talk about another project that she's been passionate about and very involved in, which is the Roseway Heights Middle School garden project. We went over on this last one, so I'd suggest to keep it short, among other things, because we haven't actually managed to pull this off at this meeting, but I'd love to get to where we actually get done with the formal presentation and Q&A early and can actually just kind of gather in smaller groups. People can hit up Suzanne with other questions, likewise with Catherine, Megan, anybody else, anything else you found interesting here, or just meet your neighbors and the board. So we'll try to have time for that as well. So with that, Suzanne, I'm going to let you
Try to keep this shorter.
your other passion project.
Yeah, my other passion here. In 2006, I was on the ground floor of Oregon Farm to School and School Garden Network, and we basically started working towards getting Oregon food on Oregon school lunch tables. And then we couldn't just switch out the food. How would the kids know where it came from? And so we then added the school gardens to it. So then fast forward, I retired in 2021, Rose City Park Elementary School had a school garden there. I volunteered. And then I learned that McDaniel's has a sustainable ag program and has a beautiful greenhouse over there as part of the remodeling, gorgeous certified kitchen. And I could just see that we could have a continuous K through 12 school garden initiative program. And the missing piece was Roseway Middle School. And so I then showed up for a community day. It was in August of 2022, and found out that there was I knew that there was a garden there because I had seen it, but it was actually created when Roseway Heights, when it's Gregory Heights, was K through 8. And they actually closed down Rose City Park Elementary School. This was 2018. And then it went back to being a middle school in 2017. And at that K through 8, Bonnie Red was a second grade teacher, and she's the one that started putting all this infrastructure and doing the plants for this garden. And then when she went back to Rose City Park Elementary School, it basically went back to blackberries and Canadian thistles. So I knew blackberries, so I showed up for this event, and Jack Lewis, the social study teacher, came around the corner and said, "Oh my God, I didn't even know we had a garden." We exchanged email addresses, and by the time I got home, there was 8 emails of principal teachers that were interested in getting this garden going for the kids. So that's a little bit of the history of it. We then started on the next slide. Yeah, we then started like first Saturday work parties, and it took a while to get this garden into shape. And so we started, talking to dog walkers. We talked to the teachers. We set up surveys, and pretty soon in October, Jack brought his class out, and we did a garlic planting. There was only one bed, and so it was their bed. We did a garlic planting, and then we said, okay, you're going to have a garlic tasting as well. So we got Little Caesar garlic bread and brought it in, and we had a tasting, and yuck was not a choice as far as vocabulary of what they were experiencing. And so the kids, basically that was kind of our first crop. But even after that, there was a lot of challenges, which is true for school gardens, to get the momentum going. So we just kept on going, and a lot of neighbors started getting involved and appreciating that we were bringing back this land. So we did the next slide. We started putting we love cardboard coffee bags. They are our friends. And so that was the way that we squelched the Canadian thistles. We covered it all. That was a sad seating area in the middle. We cleaned that all up. It is now a center flower garden. So that's that was our first step. That was in fall. And then we brought in the first load of chips. And then the kids came out and did this lasagna, what they call lasagna, flower planting. So we had daffodils on the bottom, and then we had tulips, and then we had hyacinths on the top. And you can see the bouquet that came up in the spring from the kids planting that area. And it was the Eco Club, and they totally got into it. We had great fun doing that. The little bed on the side, we didn't have any garden beds, so we decided to start a berm. That's all the soil that came from the garlic bed that was removed. On the next slide is our first let's see, this first crop of sunflowers. So this is what we planted this spring. And the kids were out there. It was the Eco Club. The Eco Club's very small. It's about five kids, but you know, when two or more gathered, there's a party from my point of view. And so we made it happen. And so you can see that those sunflowers are standing tall. We have rain barrels there to go dip and keep them watered during this hot weather. The next slide. And here they are today. They're in full bloom in the garden at this point. So the purpose of this was just to get something to show, and that the conversations, even with the neighbors, of talking about the garden started with these sunflowers and thanking us for the sunflowers, and then it went from there. So the next slide is our next other chapter. We wanted a learning circle. So Sarah Mancini called us up, said, my neighbor's tree's coming down, what do you want for log seeds? So we quickly came up with the formula, 15-inch diameter and 15-inch high, because they were heavy enough that the middle schoolers couldn't pick them up, but they were light enough for us to get them to the school. So this was our first set of log seeds. So we just set them up outside of the garden. The next slide shows, once again, we were back to cardboard, coffee bags, and wood chips. And then brought in, the next slide, then we're still looking, we're running around the neighborhood trying to find trees that were being cut down. And the January storm hit. And oh my gosh, we looked down at the golf course, and this was the pile of logs, and they cut up some logs. Some were the right size, some were too light. So then the next slide, we eventually got 28 log seeds. So we now have a learning circle at the school for kids to come out, and it's just wonderful. I keep counting them every time I go over there. None have walked away. To see the kids come in and use them. There's a preschool over at the high school, and that whole preschool group comes over and hangs out here. And so we've got life in this part of the schoolyard that was nobody was there. They didn't know what to do there. So the next one was, we had to move the logs because we had another game plan for that space. So these logs went to the orchard. And I don't know how many of you know that there is an orchard in the schoolyard over there at Roseway. And we have a report that was created in 2015 that was created by the landscape, I can't remember. Anyway, it was a Portland Parks, and they logged every single tree on that property. And so we know for a fact that these trees are part of that orchard. And many people didn't recognize them because they were in pretty sad shape, but we came in and pruned them, and we now have apples, quince, figs, hazelnuts, plum, and persimmons in this little cluster. And that's where our learning circle moved to, because we were able, this PTA secured a $2,000 loan. And I would bet that many of you have actually had a picnic on one of these tables. This is created by, they're built by Pacific Timber Products, and they do all of the picnic tables for the state, Oregon State Parks. They are marvelous. They're 800 pounds. They will not go anywhere. We called our friends up on a spur of the moment because they were coming, and they wheeled them into the place where the log seats were. So that is even, now we have a place that the teachers and the students can come and actually start dreaming about what they want to do with this space. We hope to have 4 tables total in the end, but even just see 2 there, we can see activity going on and people actually taking ownership of this space. So that is, next slide. So the next chapters is one of the teachers that's coming from Rose City Park actually donated soil. This guy loves soil and does all the experiment of different types of soil. So we're going to tap into them. But what's really exciting, which comes right back to where I started of connecting the K through 12, is we're talking to McDaniel's shop teacher, and the kids are going to make the garden beds over at McDaniel's and bring them over and assemble them at Rose City Park. So now we're starting to get opportunities and dynamics between McDaniel's and Roseway, and continue. Elementary schools are a lot easier, not easy, a lot easier to actually get school gardens going because they're with one teacher and it can be easily programmed. And we have Growing Gardens and Grow Portland that come in and actually assist with the programming. But then these kids hit middle school and they hear bells, they have 45 minutes, they're moving from teacher to teacher. It's a very different experience. And I'm really taking it on as a challenge on how do you create a nature-based opportunity for kids in middle school. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Suzanne. That's super inspiring that's up and running and an available resource for the kids and for anybody who's in that area. And I think it's inspiring. We'll have something similar in the Plaza and the Parkway. And yeah, then all these things are connective and more than the sum of the parts. So that's awesome. What questions do we have either on Zoom or here in person? Yeah, go ahead.
Less of a question, although how do I get involved? But I just want to say thank you. It's beautiful.
So yes, thank you. It's beautiful. And how can we get involved?
This is awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And how can people get involved?
I
Suzanne?
have cards. You can touch base with me afterwards. I call them confetti cards, they're always in my pocket for the bluff and for wherever I'm hanging out.
Well, then let's make sure we get the contact information in Zoom as well. So yeah, that'd be great. What else? Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Suzanne. That was awesome. And that brings us to the final full presentation. We got a few more mentions, but Martine Reynolds is going to talk about the Rose City Park Elementary School, not to be confused with the Rose City Park Neighborhood Association or Rose City Park Park. So they're going to be talking about the playground site plan, which is very exciting. So yeah, and it sounds like so Latif, you're going to be joining up here.
Here.
Good.
We'll just.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so, yeah, if you want to take different mics or share the mics.
Okay, quick introduction. My name is Latif Jackson. I live right on the corner of 65th in Sacramento. And so I'm the last house in Rose City Park, or the first house you see as you leave Roseway Heights. And I sort of feel like it's not really any different because I kind of spend my time in both neighborhoods. I didn't really know until Chris pointed out that I'm officially not a Roseway neighbor, so. But yeah, and also, so I'm involved, I work with Susan across the street. If you're looking for a great deal on golf balls, my son works across the street, he has probably like 500, is that right?
No commercial solicitation.
Oh, yeah, no solicitation, sorry, he may not give them up though, so. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Sure. Hi, I'm Martine Reynolds. I'm Martine Reynolds. I'm in Rose City Park, not technically in Roseway either. But happy to be here and share our goals as they align with everything we've been hearing tonight.
So quickly, I know this is the end of the night, so we're gonna go really fast. Rose City Park is part of PPS. We are kind of governed by PPS, although they very much are very interested in the paint colors, that we paint everything. So this is gonna be a little detailed. We will be happy to talk later after, but we're gonna kind of bust through 15 slides in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is the current school ground that we all see. If you've been there, you know what it looks like. It's very hot in the summer and very cold and rainy in the winter. And we have been working on a vision, which is going to turn it into, next slide. It's going, come on, maybe. Well, it looks really nice. And
Click on.
It's advancing.
Oh, you might
Oh,
consider
there
it
we
with it.
there we go. Okay, so yay. So I think like there's been a really great theme to see that we having an alternative vision for what our neighborhood is going to be, right? Whether it's the park that we saw at the beginning, or the bluff, or the changes we saw that Susan talked about at the middle school. And I think we had got together and wanted to change our vision for what the school looked like, and this is kind of what we came up with as a group.
Oh, yes. But more than a schoolyard, it's a community schoolyard, or it could be. Which would improve the health, the equity, and climate resilience of people of all ages, not just our students and teachers on the site. This is our hope for Rose City Park Elementary. Go to the next slide. Okay. Oh, okay. It should be how we got here. Okay, so how we got here. Well, in 2020, we all had to return to schools to learn together, but at socially distance. And so students were outside a lot. That means they're eating lunch in the rain. They were trying their best to stay apart while being together. Which highlighted the need for indoor and outdoor safe learning spaces, but also the physical and psychological benefits of connecting with nature, which our site severely is lacking. So then in 2020, we had counselors and teachers kind of rally together to start a garden program, which partnered with PPS in 2021, Steve Smith from Facilities. And this led to volunteer-led efforts, digging up, planting, the revitalization of our garden, led by Annie Ozels, a community member. 2022, we partnered with Grow Portland. We got some grant funds to start. If you're unfamiliar with Grow Portland, they're a nonprofit connecting schools and communities to nature with garden experiences and activities. We were able to secure the grant funds for an educator. So now, because of COVID, we have a garden educator who leads a class once a month, and she provides information on food systems and environmental stewardship. And Vestal Elementary is also participating in their garden program. And then that same year, we realized that there was a lot of interest in this greening of our schoolyard. So we started our site plan committee, which I'm a part of, Latif, along with Meteen and Annie. So the four of us are a small but mighty team, and we're growing.
getting people to come on board all the time, because this is a community effort. I mean, our kids, I don't even think will ever get to play on this playground as students in the school, but it's a neighborhood and community asset, and we recognize it's for the greater good. The next one. Want to do our vision? Okay, our vision. This is what our committee came up with. Together, we can transform the Rose City Park Schoolyard into a thriving green space that helps our kids learn, grow, and be healthy. We want to design school grounds that reflect the diverse identities and needs, and contribute to a strong sense of belonging, to give kids opportunities to play and learn in green spaces every day, while also providing flexible weather appropriate places for gathering. But beyond that, it's our hope that with a vibrant and verdant schoolyard, we can improve, like I said, the health, equity, and climate resiliency of our entire community. You spoke to this earlier, Suzanne, and I forget your name, I'm the first presenter, but your pollinator corridor, all these green spaces, this part of this natural corridor, we're hoping that we can contribute to that as well. Okay, who we are. So for those of you who don't know, Rose City Park Elementary has been serving kids and families since 1912. But today it is home to our Vietnamese dual language immersion and English scholar programs with a total of 463 students. We are actually one of the largest school populations in our cluster. The others, for those of you who don't know, are Jason Lee, Vestal, Rigler, and Scott. Scott is another large school population as well. We have about 192 Vietnamese dual language learners, and we have 271 in the English Scholar program. And we are actually, which makes us very unique, only one of 4 Vietnamese immersion programs in the whole country. Okay, who we serve. So we have Rose City Park serves many low-income and underserved students and families. A lot of people don't know this because of our school population being so large. Our percentage is pretty small. 35%, I think, of low-income students, a school can qualify for Title I funding from federal funds. We are at 31% at our school, but that doesn't really highlight the fact that we still have 145 low-income students that don't get those federal dollars that Title I schools do. We also have 218 historically underserved students, and this is who we serve at Rose City Park. Oh, sorry, let me do this slide real quick. Yeah. Okay, so you talked about this earlier, the corridor, our ecosystem. We're thinking about our communities. We're thinking about, the pollinators. There's a lot happening in our greater area. I'm not going to talk about the projects that you all have already talked about, but they're listed here. And then also, I think Vestal is part of Grow Portland. I think, Rigler is going through some greening of their schoolyard as well. Yes, so as you can see, our schools provide walkable access to nature in our neighborhoods. But our schoolyard, like many others, is overheated, it's vacant, it's very uninspired. And you'll find that a lot in Portland, that these paved schoolyards are not providing shade, they're heat islands actually. So projects like these, like you have all talked about, we're hoping to change that.
Is that where you want to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we spent 2.5, probably longer years working on this. So it may seem like, oh, well, we have some pretty pictures, but actually we spent a lot of time working on this. And so part of that, I think where we are now is we've gone through a process of both working with students, doing community outreach. We've done a number of surveys, which we'll talk about in a minute. We've also built this vision plan, which has a little more details, which you can look at later, or we can share if you come later, you can see there actually a website with more details. Oh, and we've hired a Junket Studio, which goes through this great, the RISE school program, which is part of the process that we go through. It's actually pretty well laid out. one of the great things about this process is that we didn't have to start from ground zero. This is how all schools go through to have a vision plan for their site. So it's sort of become a standard in PPS. And so that's kind of where we started. And through that process is what got us to where we are, which is engaging with our community, which was mainly the school community as an outreach in there. And then the third phase of that was to kind of build this vision plan. And now it's really, we're on the fourth phase of this, which is, phasing and fundraising. And so we have a vision plan, but now we have to break that down into smaller pieces so we can chew them up over time. So like Martine was saying, our kids may not see this because it'll take years to develop this plan. But first we have to do is break it down in small pieces and actually fundraise and actually do the projects.
And just to add, the Junkus Studio came up with the Rise Schoolyard Plan, and PPS hired them to assess all the schoolyards in the district and to come up with a plan to meet the needs of our community now. So RISE stands for resilient, inclusive, sustainable, and equitable. And so this is part of a larger effort, but with this framework, like Lateef said, it will give schools a starting point, and Wrigler has already started working with Junkus Studio on their RISE schoolyard. Lateef's actually in this photo.
There I am with my kids. So this is part of the process that we did where we actually had a design process with kids involved and also our community at the school. And so we got input to the plan that you see today. We'll just keep going. So this is also another part of the outreach process was we did a bunch of surveys with our school community and we got different concerns back. I think we kind of outlined, I'll read some of them just so you have an idea of what's at the top. Expand the garden, shade trees, grass sports field, covered area, outdoor learning space, play structure, sitting area, and then art. And then a bike track.
May have missed.
Did I miss one?
We may have missed a slide. Oh, no, wait,
No.
I think we're good.
What's the next one? I think we can go forward.
Yes, okay.
Is there one
more after that?
One more after that? Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, sorry. Oh, and this is a drawing from students. They had a large wish list of items that we could not meet their needs. Slides from the roof to a ball pit to a swimming pool. We're working with PPS constraints, kids, but you go ahead.
Anyway, I actually think this is really great to see. The kids actually did a pretty amazing job. I think I'm always shocked that they kind of hit the nail on the head. A lot of what they have is actually in the school plan when we actually see it. And it's sort of always amazing. They have no limits. And we as adults kind of have all these constraints of like, we're thinking about PPS and what they might do. Whereas they don't. And I think that's actually really healthy for us to expand our vision.
Yeah. Okay, so this is our site. We are one of 3 schools in the cluster without a covered structure. Roseway Middle and Vestal, I believe, do not have covered structures either. We're located on 57th, and I don't know if you're familiar with our school, but it's on a hill. And so we're kind of in the middle where traffic coming down doesn't see the school zone until they're upon it, and traffic coming up doesn't see the school zone until they're upon it, which, you know, makes things interesting for our crosswalks. And we're wheel accessible from 57th only, which is another top concern among our community. We have 72,532 square feet of asphalt. So to give you an idea, research shows that a healthy schoolyard is about 50 square foot of asphalt per student on site. PPS, their average for all of their schoolyards was about 116 square feet. And we are at 156, so about 3 times what a healthy schoolyard should have. Go ahead.
And this is actually yard, not like.
Not where the school is sitting, not where the parking lot, it's play space. So what is left after you take out the school and the parking lot? Good question. So the proposed vision plan would remove over half of the current asphalt and replace it with green space, including gardens, bioswales, because we have a large retaining wall that right now water kind of just cascades over when it rains hard. Shade trees to cool the schoolyard and absorb stormwater, and just inspire gathering outside of our school. You know, it's in the middle of a neighborhood like all of ours in the cluster, and it would be great to see people there. So the remaining 31,000 square feet of asphalt would be used for, that's already existing, would be used for basketball courts and bike riding. So yeah, it's a big goal, but as you can see, it's a depressing concrete garden. Oh yeah, this is the slide that's out of place. Sorry, what we heard. Go ahead and continue.
So these are additional feedbacks. These are kind of the main concerns. Obviously, one of the biggest ones, which is safety, is dropping off your kids at school is a huge concern. We're right on the corner of 57th. So that was sort of the safety of drop off, availability of bike parking.
So yeah.
About half of our students walk or bike from the neighborhood. So that's, yeah, it's great, but it's also, they have to cross 57th, right? Some of them have to cross 57th.
And about half ride.
And then half ride, because we also have the Vietnamese immersion school. So we have a lot of people who come from not just our neighborhood, but outside of our neighborhood.
And some as far as Beaverton, they're coming for this program. So yeah, about split school walking versus riding. And then the other top concerns were
yes.
no shelter.
Yeah, no shelter and no accessibility, which is a huge issue, actually, not to have an accessible access to a school. So we're trying to also address some of those issues too.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my slide. So this is what I'm focused on actually right now is this particular area. So what comes next is we're breaking it up into smaller pieces. So I'm getting laser focused on digging up this to create green space. And it's a small section that's right next to our existing garden that we have right now. And I think that just to sort of, there's two main goals. One is to keep our momentum because we've gotten to this point, we spent 2 years, and now we want to kind of maintain that momentum. And then I think it'll also help us kind of build out the rest of our phases, the kind of build out the rest of our phases. And then one of the reasons that I think I'm really motivated to do this section is the principal told us that, I don't know if you're familiar, but we have a lot of challenged kids in school these days. And so bringing them out into the garden, bringing them out in the green space really calms them down. And so that really motivated me to try to figure out how to tackle this first project. And so what you'll see coming soon this fall, hopefully, is us starting to rip up this pavement.
Okay. How we make it happen. As one of the top landholders in Portland, our district has a significant opportunity to mitigate the effects of climate change. So we're trying to earn community support, just like you have behind your greening projects. We're trying to link them together. We're trying to align with partners like you so we can go into these larger grant opportunities as a big collective. We can get the structure, the coverage structure for the other schools in our cluster that don't already have one with one big grant, or go into the bond trying to achieve the same goal for a larger area. We're trying to identify funding opportunities. A lot of our goals are the same. So these grants can be grouped together. Grant writing is a huge task. So trying to, get as much together as we can while we do write these grants is in all of our best interests. And then finally, we're just trying to build and use the space together. We're part of a larger community. We have Roseway kids at our school. It's a walkable green space for people, not just students. So we're hoping to leverage this process as well as plans and resources, like I said, grant opportunities for all of the schools in our cluster. Okay, and this is who's with us. So we are in partnership with PPS. They've been green lighted, although they're not giving us any money. They said they give us our blessing and we can go forth. We are working with Grow Portland, our two parent organizations, Hoi Fu Win from our Vietnamese immersion and PTO, and then Junkus Studio. But we are in conversation with Rose City Bluff, Deep Pave, Lower Columbia Estuary, East Multnomah Soil and Water, OEC, Oregon Environmental Council, and Apano. But we'd love to partner with other organizations that are aligned with the same goals, because we're not asking for anything, but we can combine our efforts to get what we need to accomplish all of this. It seems lofty, but we think we can do it. Okay.
So I just wanted one more thing. So we have 25 different people, parents that have reached out to me interested to help our. So that's like our community. And so part of the reason that I really pushed for us to start talking to our community, our neighbors, was that I think that there's this, we're all sort of in this together, and all of our neighbors are working on this together. And maybe there are some of your neighbors too, because they have their parents in the school. And I just wanted to thank you guys for having us here and sharing our vision.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. And yeah, we're running behind schedule. So what I'm going to propose is that instead of having Q&A right now for this topic, I'm going to talk about just a few other mentions of outside things going on in the neighborhood, and then I'm going to mention a few things about upcoming meetings, and then try to break 5 or so minutes before 9, so you all have a chance. If you didn't get the contact information, if you want to follow up with Martine and Latif or Catherine or Megan or anybody who presented tonight, that you'll have the opportunity to do so. So just the quick mentions of other projects going on that don't have presentations tonight. There is the Rose City Golf Course Trail Project that's managed by Portland Parks and Rec. It's building trails around the golf course. We don't have a presentation tonight because they did present at the Rose City Park Neighborhood Association a couple months ago. They didn't have any major updates to so they aren't here tonight, but they do have some updated information on their website. So if you Google for Rose City Golf Course Trail Project, you'll find it, or you can follow up with us. Look at the bottom of the roseway.org website. I also wanted to mention, and we got somebody here who's heading up a street mural and improvement project at Mason and 80th to 82nd. So Johnny's here. Did you want to stand up, Johnny? And if you have any questions about that, if you live around there or want to volunteer to help improve that block, it's a great effort that Johnny and some neighbors just got together and decided they were going to do it. So thank you so much for doing that. And since we're talking about murals, we got the horizontal murals like on 80th and Mason, and then the plaza at 72nd and Mason. Vertically, we have the Pacific Islander and Asian Family Center has a new mural that they're going to be putting up on their west wall, I believe. So we got that to look forward to, in addition to the one that was built out on the Blossom building. So some really great beautification of our built landscape as well. So I wanted to mention all those things as things going on in the greater Roseway neighborhood that are all helping to improve livability and the beauty of our environment. So with that, I'm going to mention a few things about upcoming meetings because it's important. We have a general meeting and board meeting combination on September 10th, and it's going to be a special meeting. We'll advertise it as a general meeting because we do have some housekeeping to our bylaws that we need to do, and all of you as residents of Roseway or owners of a business of Roseway or owner of property have a right to vote as a member for these bylaws changes, and then in October for our board. So I encourage you to attend, see what those bylaws changes are, and make your voice heard. We're going to be posting what those changes are soon on the website, and we'll get that out on social media as well. But that'll be September 10th. And then our general annual meeting will be in October, October 22nd, and that will be our annual board elections. So if you want to get more involved with the neighborhood association, being a board member is an awesome way to do that. We do have available open positions, and then we'll be hopefully getting a few people signing back up for another couple of years. So wanted to mention all of that, but yeah, in both of those meetings, anybody who's a general member is eligible to vote. So just a reminder there. So with that, anything else before we close a little bit early so we have a chance for some informal discussion? Great. This is actually the first time in our community meeting that we're not like right up to the minute to 9 o'clock. So I'll just remind you, we do need to start to clear out of the church building at 9 p.m. But that gives us about 10 minutes to ask follow-up questions of the people who presented tonight, or you can go to the table and ask more about just the neighborhood association in general, opportunities to volunteer. And if you're on Zoom, you can chime in there and we'll point you towards the right resource. Dave?
Might want to explain what it means to be a general member of the neighborhood association, just so that, because it sounds like it might be an extra step or whatever it is, but.
Yeah, so Dave makes a good point. Being a general member, you need to opt into it to say, yes, I want to be a member of the Roseway Neighborhood Association. It doesn't mean you have to be on the board and attend board meetings, but it just means that you're eligible to vote at these general meetings on issues of the neighborhood association's concern. So no obligation, no dues, nothing other than you get to show up to general meetings and vote on these things like bylaws changes and who you want on the board, because ultimately it's your community and we're serving what you want. So yeah, that's what it means to be a member. Any questions about that? All right. Well, with that, we'll close so you all can chat and get to know each other. You can just introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you, or find one of these folks that gave a presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.